It is important for dignity, for the dignity of the patient.
It's not thinkable. We cannot accept lowering standards. I mean, medicine is a high quality field. We can only treat people as well as possible. There's no margin there. And the language question is quite essential. I mean, I'm a general practitioner, a family doctor, and if you cannot talk with people and understand people, you cannot really have medicine. Medicine is not only pills and radiography, it's also speaking and communication. It's mainly communication and understanding. If you don't speak the language, you cannot do that. And this is quite central. I mean, medicine without communication is not medicine. And in this meaning, language is absolutely central.
In the communication between a patient and a physician, the language is essential. And understanding in both sides is essential and very, very important. It is important to find the right diagnosis. It is important to give the right treatment. It is important for dignity, for the dignity of the patient to have. So the communication and the language skills are essential. They have to be appropriate. They have to be what the physician and the patient needs in order to communicate in a good and safe manner. This is crucially important. Yes, there may be some physician roles, like for instance in laboratory medicine or in some experimental position or some teaching positions at the universities where that is not that important. But for nearly all physicians, it is important that there is an excellent communication ability between the patient and the doctor, and vice versa, of course. And therefore, language skills are essential. And I cannot understand that states are not very diligently looking into the provision of good language capabilities.
I will tell you the practice in Malta I've been a doctor for nearly 40 years, and where we have had many doctors from Eastern Europe, including Polish, Czech, but now more from the East. If you have a shortage of doctors, the employers and the state have an option, either no doctor or a doctor who has skills but not all the linguistic capabilities. In Malta, 85% of the population speaks fluent English, and it is quite easier to find a doctor who speaks English rather than any other language. So our outlook in Malta has been, one, it's better a doctor who speaks English than no doctor, especially in the more essential emergency services. But we still believe that knowledge of the Maltese language is important for those people who cannot speak it, who cannot speak English. So during the first year, the employee is obliged to go to Maltese lessons and sit an exam by the University of Malta after 1 year, and his contract might not be continued if he does not pass the exam. Not necessarily, but so this is a balance by keeping the service going, providing patients care, and on the other hand, reinforcing the principle that the right of proper communication.
Most important in healthcare provision is the relationship between the patient and the physician. This is based on trust, and it is based on good communication between the physician and the patient. And of course, most important for the communication is the language. So the physician has to be able to communicate very clearly with the patients. That's of utmost importance. And that becomes even more important for the occupation-specific terminology, meaning the medical terminology, which is even more important. So this has to be always guaranteed. Lowering standards in medical education and in healthcare provision is never a good idea, because that will suffer in quality and in the safety of healthcare provision, and not being able to communicate clearly without any misunderstandings between healthcare professionals, between the physician colleagues and with the patient is a big problem. So we would never recommend to lower standards when it comes to language skills and especially to the occupation-specific terminology, the medical terminology.
You know, with the shortage of physicians, the government always wants to decrease the level of demands. So that's the problem, and it's always in democratic countries. It should be a kind of balances, and definitely there are some very dramatic cases, and we know about one case of a German physician in the United Kingdom that didn't understand English enough, and the mistake was fatal. The patient actually was injured, and so it's a real problem. It's very difficult to put a red line here, and it's always the balance from demand of the government to decrease and the professional society to keep the standards rather high.